Um, right, why did I give you a bit of some homework to do? And as every good teacher needs to do, I'll see if anyone's done their homework. Um, I mentioned that we were looking at how to lead staff and different bits and bobs. So if we look at the first bit about leading staff, did anyone manage to have a difficult conversation with a member of staff? That was one of the things I set you. So if we can just, if anyone wants to respond to that, did you get a chance to do that? Um, did it work? What was it like? Was it as bad as you thought it was going to be? Um, I think that was one of the important things to take away to see if how we could do that from the first one. So a few of you are saying yeah, you give it a go. Um, let's see what responses we get there for the first minute or so. And maybe if you want to, if you obviously without mentioning names, maybe what it was about. Was it underperformance? Was it teaching? Was it an issue with the student? How did it sort of work? What were you sort of talking about? Would be good to know to start with. And then if you haven't managed to do it, that's fine. It may there may be that actually an opportunity didn't arise within your school over that period of time for you to do that. So there's no point having a difficult conversation if you don't need to. So all right, let's see. Right, Nick was criticised directly regarding a student leaving via email. He went and spoke to member of staff as soon as he got it. Excellent, good stuff. And hopefully, Nick, you didn't, like I say, like we talked before, not leaving it, getting it done as soon as you can. The longer you leave it, the longer it then becomes an issue, I suppose, was what we were talking about last time. Laura, she had a difficult conversation, but she had evidence to back up why she believed they'd been professional. Brilliant. So you've got the evidence behind you there, which means you're not just saying it on a whim or on from an objective point of view. You've actually got some evidence there which you can go to and say, well, actually, here's the evidence. Brilliant. Good stuff. Sounds like we've been hard at work then, guys. Excellent. I'll wait and see what else comes in on the next few people. Discuss something with my head of department about something which fell under my remit inside the house. I was nervous about the meeting, but glad I did it. It worked well. Excellent. So I think a lot of these things coming through is that we don't like doing these meetings. We feel like they're going to be awful, but actually getting it out of the way straight away makes you feel so much better. And like I mentioned last time, I think ducking a situation and leaving it is just really weak leadership. So it sounds like that's really good, and we've got some people giving that a go. So brilliant, excellent. All right, I'll respond to the comments as they come in. The other thing I set you to do was to what's on the screen there was to read and understand your school Ofsted report, and also to read the national report. And I mentioned two or three things from there last time. Did anyone manage to do that? And also, Raise Online raised a few eyebrows, I think, with a few people last time. We were sort of maybe not as comfortable with it as they would like to be. Did anyone manage to read their Raise Online, understand it, pick out strengths and weaknesses, or have you sat down with someone who does that in your school? Have you had a chance to look at that? And do you feel more confident, I suppose, is the question, after having a look at Raise Online and your Ofsted report? Or has it made you run a mile, and has it scared you off senior leadership? So yeah, if you can drop some comments in the box there about whether you've done that, whether you were able to do that, if you've had any help with that, would be great. All right, Sarah said she had an awkward performance management meeting where tasks were not being completed. Staff member got defensive, but as the evidence proved my point, she knew she had to amend her views. Hopefully, this was all amicable, although very difficult. Yeah, absolutely. I can imagine it was, Sarah, which is, that's the nature of it, isn't it? Difficult conversations. But I think that if we don't have those difficult conversations, then, like I said last time, we are just happy to let things go, and we are really party to that underperformance. If we know about it and we don't deal with it, then it comes back to our leadership. So good, some good stuff. John didn't manage to do the Ofsted reports, but spent lots of time on Res Online with assistant head, who's training him in Ofsted. That's better. Wow, good stuff. So you're getting some good training there, John. Yeah, and Res Online does deserve a lot of time. It's very important. There's a lot of graphs in there that initially are probably very scary, lots of data, lots of charts. But actually, when you start to unpick it, it's very interesting, and it tells you a lot about your school, albeit retrospectively about last year's year 11. So we need to bear that in mind. Andrew used Raise Online data to analyse progress of students on pupil premium and establish intervention strategy. Fantastic, good. A real good use there of your time, I imagine, Andrew, and I'm sure that the school were pleased with that, and hopefully there's some, you can identify progression from that as well. So fantastic. Well, from what I gather then so far, hopefully that task that I set you last time has been quite useful, and hopefully you've done a lot of learning from that. So that's great. Last one then, Laura, Resline done. Felt better in my apartment was green. Very interesting to see some of the things in the school are blue. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. It's interesting to compare yourself with other departments in the school, see which ones are underperforming and which ones are performing high. So, yeah, very good. All right, let's move on pretty quickly then, since we lost a little bit of time at the start due to the technical hitch. One thing I want to say before we move any further forward is that I really appreciate the feedback that you filled in for subject support. That was fed through to me, and I appreciate that. And one of the things that came up from there was, I think one or two people have mentioned that they want to maybe tailor it slightly more towards senior leadership rather than middle leadership. And obviously, that was difficult for me in the first session because we were talking about the transition from middle to senior leadership. But certainly this afternoon, I'm going to hopefully try and put you in the place of a senior leader. And when we're talking about either teaching, learning, or behaviour, I want you to think about yourself in that position, leading behaviour or leading teaching, learning, or whatever it is, as a senior leader. And hopefully we'll do that. So I've listened to that, and hopefully that'll come through, and we'll move it forward from there. So that's great. Right. What we're going to do this afternoon then is we're going to look at the following 4 things: leading, teaching, and learning. Delivering an effective CPD program, which is really hand in hand with teaching and learning. We'll do that before the break. We'll have a 5-minute break, and then we'll look at raising achievement and behaviour and safety. The main areas of the Ofsted, the 4 areas of Ofsted are teaching and learning, achievement, behaviour and safety, and leadership and management. We looked at leadership and management last week, or last session, should I say, and we're now going to look at the other 3 things today. So hopefully that'll give you a real good idea. It will be a whistle-stop tour like it was last time. However, hopefully it will give you a taster of different areas, maybe some other things to research, some things to think about. And if you do move into senior leadership, you will probably have a responsibility for one of those areas of the Ofsted schedule. And it may be teaching and learning, it may be behaviour, it may be achievement, whatever it may be. And hopefully this afternoon we'll be able to give you some real practical tips, as well as some extra reading and some research to go away and to start thinking about how you can really put yourself in that position, and give you some ideas on how you would lead that in your school. All right, first thing then, leading, teaching, and learning. My current role as an assistant head has been to lead teaching and learning over the last 2 or 3 years, and my new role as deputy head teacher is going to be to lead teaching and learning. So this is where I'm at the moment. I put a quote on the bottom there under the photograph: "Let's keep the main thing the main thing," and that really resonates with me. It's something I heard a few years back, because we need to remember that the main thing in school, irrespective of anything else, is teaching. It has to be teaching and learning. Are the kids learning, and how good is the quality of teaching? It's no good looking for sticky plasters and intervention here and intervention there and what can we do here if the teaching isn't right in the class, because all we're doing, we're literally missing the point. Yes, intervention is important. Yes, timetabling is important. Yes, all these other things are important, but they can't replicate good quality teaching. And we need to remember that that's where we need to put our energies. That when we drive a car, we don't put water in, we put petrol in. We need to make sure that we are literally fueling our students with the right teaching. If we're not, then we're literally looking for excuses around the outside. When I think the biggest change, and Ofsted says as well, is that school improvement, at the heart of school improvement, is high quality teaching and learning, and that's really important. That as a senior leader, you stress that, and you deliver that message to the staff that CPD and teaching and learning is of extreme importance, and all the other things on the outside, yes, they're important, but at the heart of everything has to be teaching and learning, and high quality teaching and learning. Right, outstanding teaching. I just want us to take a couple of minutes to think of how you would sum up outstanding teaching. Now, you may have had an outstanding lesson observation before. You may have observed outstanding teaching before as a middle leader or as a senior leader. I want you to drop some ideas in the box here of just give me some either some buzzwords or some in try and sum it up in a couple of sentences. What does it look like? So if you were to tell me in 2 or 3 sentences or in a few bullet points, what does outstanding teaching and learning look like? Drop me something in here. What are the main things? If you were to talk to NQTs or student teachers, what are your top things that you want to see as a senior leader when you're observing